Hey, San Diego, what's up? It's a beautiful day in San Diego, always is, and I'm so happy to have two amazing people as my guests today. I happen to know both of them for quite some time. I'll start with Victor Ochoa. Victor is an activist, a painter, a graphic designer, and master muralist. And he's painted over 100 murals, so we're going to talk about that a little more. And then many of them are right here in San Diego, California. So I'm really happy to have you here, Victor. Thanks for showing up. He's considered one of the pioneers of San Diego's Chicano art movement. That's huge. So we'll get into that a little more. And Victor was one of the original activists at Chicano Park and a co-founder of Centro Cultural de la Raza in Balboa Park. Not bad for a non-Spanish speaking person, right?
Yeah.
And then Victor was also instrumental in establishing the influential border art workshop, or Taller de Arte Fronteriza. This is good. I get to practice my Spanish. You guys can make fun of me.
Doing a good job.
Yeah, you can make fun of me.
We're going to change your name to Maximiliano.
Maximiliano.
Victor is also a teacher of art and Chicano heritage, and we want to hear more about that. And he has also, his work has really received national recognition, including at the Venice Biennial at the Museum of Contemporary Art right here in San Diego. And he's had many groundbreaking exhibitions at Chicano Park. And then also with me today is Victor Lopez, who's the founder of several amazing restaurants in San Diego, and we're going to get to know him, and a die-hard entrepreneur. So thank you, gentlemen, both for being here. So let me start with Victor Ochoa. Now, Victor, how did you become an artist? Where did you start?
Well, I think, as my mother used to say, is that I was around 5 years old, and I did a guy with a hat on and a cigarette. In those years, it was fashionable to smoke cigarettes, and he was sitting on a chair with his leg over his knee and fingers and the other kids that were with me, she was like babysitting, they were barely doing stick figures. So she noticed that from a young age, and throughout my school career, it's always been like that, where I always liked to draw, paint, and everything from building blocks to, it seemed like there's a whole realm of visual arts things that influenced me.
Sounds like art has been a part of your life from the very beginning.
I believe so. And my mom told me, when I was trying to get a job, box boy, or, in those years, cleaning windshields at the gas station and stuff like that. I never got any of those kind of jobs. I got always jobs, and she would tell me, do what you love to do. And throughout my life, it's been like that. I've been a photographer, I've been a silkscreen printer, I've been an architect, an art teacher, everything around the visual arts.
Amazing. Now, Victor, how about you? How did it start for you, growing up in San Diego to where you are today? How did you end up going into business for yourself and food business? So what was that like?
Well, I owe it all to my parents, besides God, but my parents were the ones that influenced me, the ones that showed me the way. They actually had a restaurant when I was in high school. And so besides the food, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And that's what I, envisioned myself while going to college. So I did drop out of college, unfortunately, but, my college was actual learning inside my mother's and my dad's restaurant. So that's who it all, pans down to, is my parents. My parents are the ones that showed me the way.
So were you, did you have to go work at your parents' restaurants when you were in high school?
I'm the youngest out of five, and we all, pretty much all five of us had to take turns to work. And it was my turn to work. And honestly, I kind of chose, should I continue my mom and my dad's path, or should I just stick to school and do what, the secondary option, which was going, become a police officer and hopefully possibly have more. And, the way it was paid for me, and that was what I chose, to stick with my parents' restaurant and continue and grow it. And that's how I met you, through the restaurant business in the Market Creek Plaza. And you showed me a lot of things. Honestly, you did. You showed me a lot of things. You were a little tough on me at the beginning, but I kind of learned why.
So
that
was it almost required by your parents that you had to go work at the restaurant? Is that?
It's not that it was required. I just think that after a certain age, you got to work. Right. And it was easy to get a job at my parents' restaurant. So, like I said, I was working also at Home Depot prior to that. It was right across the street from Lemon Grove, the Lemon Grove location. Then after that, I quit Home Depot and I went to work for my mom and dad. And I guess that was my calling. That was what I was meant to do.
So did you know from the earlier age that someday you want to have your own restaurant, and more than one maybe? Or was that your vision?
Early age, as maybe like 15, 16, my dad would talk to me about it, because I was the one that actually talked to my dad more than anybody of my other brothers and sisters. And we were really close. And he would talk to me about, hey, instead of joining the police academy, you should open up a restaurant. I'm like, well, open it up for me then, how do I do that? So I kind of would look at I don't know what, it was a newspaper, or it was some type of newspapers where you would look, I don't know what they were called. I don't know if it was a Penny Saver, or I don't know where it was at. And they would look, and you could actually see certain restaurants that were being sold. And so I would look at them like, damn, it's $100,000. Oh, man, that's too much money. I go, well, then put it up for me, Dad. But my dad wasn't also like, even though they had a restaurant, they were also living paycheck to paycheck, It wasn't like they were thriving. But, I mean, that's what my dad was. My dad was always a hustler. Mm-hmm. He was always an entrepreneur coming from Mexico, crossing the border. He was always an entrepreneur. And that's, I think, how I got it from him. I envisioned myself working for myself, not for anybody else, at the end of the day.
So, Victor, how about you? Was there someone in your life that inspired you or influenced you to pursue being an artist?
Well, I enjoyed it so much, and then the art teachers I remember even elementary, they were very, very supportive. And I remember when they first put my drawing on the hallway at school after we did the Pledge of Allegiance, we would walk into the classroom, and I'd see my piece on the hallway. That boosts your ego, a lot. But I always was lucky with the art teachers, because when I started painting with tempera paints on construction paper, the teachers really saw that I really loved to do that, and they would bring me special brushes for me to work with, and they were always supportive. They knew I was kind of from a poor family. My family was undocumented, so they got kicked out back to Tijuana, and then I came back on my own. So I remember teachers at San Diego State giving me canvases that people left their students from other semesters. I said, oh, you can paint big, because I have no problem painting tiny little things or huge things, So they said, oh, there's some big canvases back there in the warehouse. We'll give them to you. And
so I know San Diego today, it really is the home of amazing art community, and we're seeing more and more of it. Was it always that way, and when you started, or have you seen a more kind of a growth and appreciation for art over the years?
For some reason, I think that during the gas lamp period, there was more galleries and things in San Diego, but then that kind of died out. And San Diego is kind of a strange, kind of more right-wing kind of a city, and the gallery situation is like we only have one art store. It's kind of ridiculous. The sixth largest city in the United States, and
the second largest in San Diego County. Well,
right,
the fourth largest in California, actually. Yeah.
So we've had like Blick forever, and then Artisan and Craftsman Supply. I'm used to going to New York to Pearl Paints and and buying real art material, and it was very like we were always backward here in San Diego.
So I have a copy of your book here, My 2020 on Facebook. If you guys want to look it up, which is really a collection of Victor's work over the years. But I'm particularly interested in the Chicano art. What is that? I mean, people have referred to it as the Chicano art movement. You're a community activist. How does it all come together?
I think my instigation to have an attitude, because I think Chicano art is being Mexican and proud of being Mexican, but then having a political attitude, living here in the United States. And my grandfather from the 30s, he used to call because of the amount of racism, and even in recent years, there's been a lot of white supremacist things going on in San Diego that we have to deal with. So being a Chicano is when I came back from Tijuana after feeling to be a Mexican. I learned to speak Spanish. I learned history of Mexico. And then I came back to East LA, to Montebello, in where there was complacency about that. There was a lot of race riot. And I had a instant attitude of defending our culture, defending our language, because they didn't want us to speak Spanish in East LA. It's kind of so ridiculous. And that attitude woke up in me, and I think that ever since the 60s, I painted during the civil rights period, the women's liberation and black. I worked with the Black Panthers for 4 years. I always had a kind of that attitude in my work. Spoke to those issues, and the issues seem to are still remaining after 50 years. Racism, police brutality, even bilingual education. Knowing our indigenous heritage. It's like even in Mexico, they don't teach what that heritage is. It's even got a racist kind of thing to it, and even in Mexico. So I've been working with those issues, and in turn, I'm working with those communities. Even when I worked in Belfast with the IRA, their attitude was very similar to Chicanos. In fact, today is St. Patrick's Day, and we're doing a mural that I'm designing right now with Irish people, because the Irish came to the Mexican side to fight against the United States. It was called the San Patricio's Brigade. So we're doing a pillar, and even I think we're going to do a parade next year.
So Victor, some of your work, I know it's on display in Chicano Park.
Yeah, in fact, it's been told that I have more murals there than anybody else. And the thing is that I'm kind of material technician on all the different things that we've used for the past 52 years. And so I work with young people, students, different groups, different artists that we've invited from other towns and countries. And so I'm involved in many of the concepts to the execution of the mural.
So for the listeners that may not know where Chicano Park is, can you give the location of that if people want to go see your work? Where is that exactly in San Diego?
It's right, it's in what we call el ombligo de los barrios, the belly button of the neighborhoods. We have something like 55 Mexican neighborhoods in the county. And so Logan Heights was like that center point. You would have theaters in Spanish. We had tortillerias, where you would sell tortillas and pan dulce. We even had lawyers that dealt with immigration stuff. And so it's it's right next to downtown. I think that the park is kind of I just said to somebody few minutes ago, that it acts as an obstacle for gentrification from the ballpark. So we're real close to downtown in the ballpark, and they always trying to run over us and eliminate us as a community. So the park and the art seem to be like in other barrios. We're not the only ones. Boyle Heights is a good example, and in the Mission in San Francisco, I have similar
So it's
roots,
been a movement. It really
roots
has been,
into
yeah.
the art and culture, in the heritage, and that's kept some of that, kind of running over and just turning everything for higher rent.
So if you Google Chicano Park, it sounds like it's a designated area. So for those of you that are listening in, if you want to see more of it, just Google.
We were just
Chicano Park,
proclaimed
yeah.
a landmark nationally.
Awesome.
So I didn't even know what a landmark was until somebody said, "Oh, Mount Rushmore." So what, Chicano Park is like Mount Rushmore. It was kind of unbelievable that after 50 years of work, we have accomplished a lot through art, and it's the largest public art site in the United States now.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Victor, I know you're very active on social media, and in the last few years, you've made some national headlines.
Yes.
When you started offering, I'm going to talk about your the relationship between the charges and the free tacos. So tell us how that came about, and what was the driver, and how what happened.
It was just basically, the day that the Chargers left us, it was pretty much sad news all over San Diego for anybody that loves football, anybody that loves San Diego, and anybody that loves the Chargers. They left us, and I was one of those that was extremely sad and disappointed, and at the same time very mad. So I'm always being in business. I'm always thinking of creative ways to actually market my business, and of course it was an opportunity. I didn't know it was going to be an opportunity that grew so fast and got national headlines. Just was sitting one time at watching the first game, the first time that the Chargers were playing up in Los Angeles, our rivalry sports city, and was watching with my daughter, and was just pissed off, and just decided to come up with an idea of, and honestly, it wasn't really much of a marketing idea. It was mostly the hate that I had towards the organization that decided to leave up north, and just came up with an idea to announce on my personal social media that I'll be giving away free tacos to every loss of the Chargers, and it blew up.
You named those tacos what? You gave
Spanos Tacos.
Spanos Tacos.
So if you Google Spanos Taco, or my restaurant, El Pollo Grill, is going to come up, and you'll see pictures of the tacos, of myself. I actually was wearing jerseys very similar to this when when the news station started pouring and calling me and saying they wanted to do a story. I had the ESPN Live. I actually was interviewed live from ESPN. I was interviewed by the New York Times. What else? Some other big ones as well. I don't remember, or forget their names. And then also was interviewed by all the local stations and radio, and
wow.
CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, pretty much all of them.
So you made quite a bit of noise, I guess, around this.
Yeah.
Now, I also learned that on the flip side of it, obviously you're a big sports fan as a San Diego native. There's something going on with the San Diego Padres as well. So looks like you've created another menu item. What is that?
So what I did was, I kind of wanted to stay away, because even though it was positive for me and a lot of customers, I had the day the next day that I announced that for the Spanos Taco, we had lines out the door. It was ridiculous. People were buying. Some people were just coming for the free taco. And it became a kind of like a ritual every time, every week, because they were losing a lot, thank God. And they came and people were driving from Oceanside, people from Los Angeles, from Tijuana, you know, of course, the locals. And so even though it was positive because I got a lot of attention, then there was those people that were also hating on us, you know, and it kind of got old after a while and just decided, you know, okay, I'm going to stop the Spanos taco. Because unfortunately, we had people actually would call us in death threats and stuff like that for a damn organization. You believe that? So after about 3-4 years, I decided to say, you know what, that's it. So I just said, okay, I'm going to turn it into something positive. So I did a tatis taco. The tatis taco was basically for every single, I think I was like, if they win over a certain amount of runs, we'd give out a free taco. So that was pretty cool. And then I did a logo, and then the MLB and Tatis agents contacted me because I don't know how the heck they found out about it. I guess I was on the news as well. They found out about it, and they basically said for me to get away from their logo. So I did my own logo, and they still wanted to, you know, they kind of needed to give me permission, even though I kind of really didn't need to get permission.
Did Mr. Spanos call you?
Mr. Spanos never called me. That would have been a pretty cool thing. That call never
came in, right?
I wish that would have been pretty cool if he would have called me. So the tatis tacos, I turned into something positive, something that mostly all San Diegans can relate to, the Padres. So I turned it around, give free tacos to the Padres win after so many runs. And then, like I said, now the MLB and Tatis agent said we're okay to use his name, not the logo of the Padres. So I created my own logo. And then as long as we give a certain amount of food to an organization that was in need. I did it. I wanted to do it. They were supposed to contact me back to do that, and they never did. So I'm not going to do their job. I just continue doing it. I'm going to continue to do it this year.
So let's talk about tacos. So I have heard that San Diego is the home to some of the best tacos north of the border. Is that true, or and for folks that are listening in, I'm sure they're gonna respond to this. So what's your take on it?
Well, there's no better tacos than Tijuana style tacos.
Okay,
that's just. I mean, that's
so north of the border. That's what I said. North of the border.
That's my opinion. I'm pretty sure Victor will have other opinions. Guadalajara has some good tacos. I have
the proof right here.
Yeah. So Tijuana, to me, and to mostly everybody that has been to Tijuana, I've tried Tijuana styles. Tijuana has the best tacos. I'm not going to say the best Mexican food, but I say the tacos are definitely are in the top 3. Okay. San Diego, we have a different twist to a taco. Okay. Especially the taco shops, the Robertos, the Humbertos, the Cotijas, the Lolitas of the world, the Pollo Grills of the world. It's a different style of taco. It's more, I mean, you can say it's more Americanized. Of course, you could. But tacos, we got the rolled tacos as well. We got the burritos. We have carne asada fries, carne asada chips. They don't do that in Mexico. They don't do that south of the border. You know, we kind of put our own twist, and people do criticize sometimes Mexican foods here in San Diego. Sometimes they criticize it in a good way, and sometimes they criticize it in a bad way because they say, oh, that's not authentic Mexican food. Well, if you live in San Diego, we all know the taco shops are authentic to San Diego.
Well, I guess you could say we are pretty fortunate that, you know, we live in a border community that, you know, you can literally from anywhere in San Diego within an hour, you could be in Tijuana and enjoy some of the tacos.
Yeah,
but then we also have great food on this side.
And I have a Sentry pass because I go back and forth 2-3 times a week, and I testify that culinary arts have been blooming in Mexico and Tijuana in particular. But we won 4 years in France, the Culinary International Cuisine, you know, and so the French really don't like Mexican cooks, and they're all really young too. I saw the last year's one. They did the postre, the kid carved a papaya just to decorate the dessert table with a Virgen de Guadalupe carved in the in the papaya just to decorate the table.
And then food is also another form of art.
It is
Right.
culinary
It's
art.
not, yeah,
it's
it really
definitely-
is, and we're seeing a lot of that on both sides of the border,
Yes.
both in Tijuana and right here in San Diego. We're
Tijuana
seeing
has all these chefs now that there's a program on Saturday that I watch sometimes just to keep up with all the different places and kinds of food from pre-Columbian Mexican to tacos salseados, which is one of my favorites. That it's outrageous. The condiments, the mushrooms, the shrimps, and all the other things that when they do a taco.
So, Victor, question for you: How are you dealing with the rising cost of energy, food, ingredients, but at the same time, keeping your prices at the level that everyone can enjoy? Has that become more challenging for you in the last few months with the inflation and?
Yeah, I say it's been a challenge over the past year. At the beginning of the pandemic, certain restaurants thrived and certain restaurants, as you know, went down the drain. Basically, forcefully, whether you want to call it because of the virus or because of the government, whatever it is. My restaurant at the beginning thrived because I had a relationship with the community, and our food was our restaurant is not a sit down, even though you can sit down and eat it inside a restaurant. It was not a sit down where people have to serve you and take your order. Mine was more of fast casual. That's basically what it was. So my type of restaurant, if you were in a certain area, thrived, and luckily all three of my restaurants, you could say, were in a good area, and the type of food that I served travels well. So people were eating all at home. And then you have the Uber Eats of the world and the Grubhubs of the world, where basically the restaurant dining or the takeout turned into that. Basically, mostly everybody was ordering.
So it looks like
delivery.
The way you ran your restaurant pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, there was a significant change. Things that you
Big
had.
time. Whether we wanted to or not, we were... And some of it has been great to now. Having an online ordering system has been great. That's
so it's actually helped your business?
That has.
Okay.
Now, the fact that we have to depend, and mostly everybody wants to order from Uber Eats, or a good percentage orders from Uber Eats. Uber Eats takes a big chunk of our business, of our profits. So that has not helped at all. Mm-hmm. It's helped in the volume, but it hasn't helped in the net profits. It's kind of kicked our butts.
So, Victor, so tell our audience the name of your restaurant and how many locations you have and where they're at, and if you have a website that people can go and check it out for themselves.
Yeah. Before I do so, you asked me about the whole inflation issue. Mm-hmm. And everywhere you're going to go, you're going to see price increases. And unfortunately, I've had to raise my prices 3 times over the past year and some months. Not because I want to make more money, but because I have to do it in order for me to even survive, or even to even break even.
So I hear this often from people saying, businesses are just, they're price gouging. They're just, doing this to make up for the loss of revenue during the pandemic. What would you say to someone who would make that statement? Probably not factual, but what would you say? Is that true? I mean,
no, absolutely not. My prices are higher than they were 2 years ago right now, but our profits are way lower. I mean, considerably lower than where they were 2 years ago.
And that's because of what?
Because of the inflation and because of the prices.
Of the cost of food.
I mean, everything trickles down from gasoline all the way down to our distributors, to our... I mean, everything, it has a domino effect.
So ultimately, it sounds like when cost of goods and material and labor goes up, businesses have to respond, and eventually those higher costs will get passed on to the consumers. Would that be a fair
there's no other way. There's no other way to do business. I mean, you have to pass it on to the consumer. We don't want to, but we have to.
Right.
You know, even if there wasn't a pandemic, every year cost of doing business or cost of living goes up. So you have to increase your prices.
But
for the most
businesses have
part.
to be profitable in order to stay business. I mean, that's,
and
that's the whole
unfortunately,
notion.
especially that I know of, talking to all the people that I know that own restaurants, we are struggling. And luckily, a lot of us got help from the government. And I don't say it as in a good way or in a bad way. I don't really like to. I mean, I've never really asked for help besides a loan, and a loan is not help. It's basically a loan. You have to pay it back. But unfortunately, most restaurants are struggling right now, and there's no other way to put it. Unless you're in the In-N-Outs of the world, or the Chick-fil-A's of the world, or the Cheesecake Factories of the world, you are struggling.
It sounds like it's harder for locally owned businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know that the paint manufacturer that I work with on the protection of the varnishes that I'm using right now on the murals, this whole shipping issue, they're not receiving the minerals and the material to make these varnishes. So I just got a call last week that they're closing down because they can't get the material. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm not that familiar with restaurants, but I know that with
there's a lot of conversation going on around the post-pandemic economy. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's a whole new phenomenon that I think we're all trying to understand it, and certainly as a local business owner, entrepreneur, and an artist, we're all trying to figure this out, and I'm sure we will. That's one thing I know about entrepreneurs. They're resilient.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, give me the name of your restaurant, how many locations you have, and your website.
El Pollo Grill. We have 3 locations. The original one started in Lemon Grove in 1987. My mother and my father, and then the next one opened up in 2016 in off of Bonita Road. Still Chula Vista, but I consider it Bonita. Mm-hmm. And then the one recently, a little bit over 2 years ago, the one in Otay Ranch. East Lake, Otay Ranch area.
Your newest location.
That's
and the website to your company?
Website, elpollogrill.com.
elpollogrill.com.
You can follow us on also on Facebook.
Thank you, Victor,
and Instagram.
for being here. And Victor Ochoa, do you have a Facebook page or something where people can go see your work?
My Victor Ochoa webpage is pretty open, but my Instagram is Murals Ochoa, plural, Murals Ochoa. And that's where my work, I try to put my work in there so people can find out what I do, the different styles, techniques. I do watercolors. I do all kinds of different types of techniques. But my grandson is also scattered in between there because he's a 3-year-old. It's the cutest thing this side of the border right now.
That's awesome. Congratulations. So final word for Victor, for someone, another aspiring entrepreneur who's thinking about going into business. What would you tell him?
You got to risk. You got to risk. If you don't risk, there might not be a reward, or there won't be a reward at the end of the tunnel. So you got to risk. You got to hustle. You got to be resilient. Just can't stop. That's it.
And work really hard, because I know all the restaurateurs that I know from Connie Puente in Old Town, they're up at 4:00 in the morning and they're like hustling all the time. And I think it's a hard job to have a restaurant.
Especially nowadays. Especially nowadays.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for spending a few minutes of your day with me, sharing your story. I'm sure there's so much more to tell. Yep. But for our listeners, again, if you're looking for amazing Mexican food, check out elpollogrill.com. And then Victor Ochoa, thank you so much for the work that you've done over the years in San Diego. The good news is with art, it stays on. So I'm sure the work that you've exhibited will continue to inspire future generations. So thank you both for being here, and wishing you well.
Thanks,
Thank
Max.
you so much.
Thank you, Max.
All right.
Excellent.